Hello, and welcome to the Fulhamish Quick Take. Our fourth game of the season saw us fall to our first defeat of this Premier League campaign. However, that doesn't quite tell the full story, as a dogged Fulham performance saw us steal into the lead via that man Mitro again, before being condemned to late heartbreak. I'm Dan Cook, and I'm joined by Farrell Monk as we take a look back at the key moments of the game. How you doing, Faz?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I think to start with, I think one of the things I've been seeing from a lot of our fans this morning and yesterday evening is disappointment, but also quite a lot of pride in our performance yesterday. If I was to also include hungover, is that how you sort of feel this morning?
Absolutely. I had a lot of comments and probably my voice can probably tell you that as well. I had to go to a wedding straight after the game yesterday, so I had a lot of comments about what I was wearing to the game. It was a bit unorthodox, but it was a nice little experience. But yeah, pride is still the overwhelming feeling. The manner of the defeat is slightly gut wrenching, but in the cold light of day, which I'm certainly feeling right now, overwhelming sense of pride.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we're looking at an Arsenal team that have been fantastic so far this season. They've had a great start. They look a completely different side nowadays, and they looked good yesterday as well. And I think it's one of these things that I think after the Liverpool defeat, after the Liverpool draw, we came out saying, fans were coming out saying we played really well, and the opposite view was that Liverpool were dreadful. But I think actually yesterday we were good, and as were Arsenal, and we were really good at sort of trying to negate their on-ball quality. And we defended fantastically. And I think, again, it's amazing to think after 4 games that we're saying it again, but Tim Ream.
Yeah, I think, you're spot on there in saying that Arsenal played really, really well, and Fulham coped with it superbly, I thought. Whenever Arsenal got in, it wasn't because Fulham were bad, it was because they were good. You would worry if they were just cutting through us at will because we weren't defending well. If it's so easy to make comparisons to the last time we played Arsenal in the Premier League, that first home game of the season 2 years ago. It was Aubameyang up against Odoi, and that was a complete mismatch over and over again. Whereas this time you had Saka on one side, you had Martinelli. Martinelli's had a great season to start off with, but you mentioned Tim Ream, but I think a lot of plaudits has to go to Kenny Tete and Anthony Robinson. I think they did their jobs brilliantly, especially in the one-on-ones. I haven't seen the stats, but I want to see how many actual take-ons those Arsenal wingers actually did and how many they were successful with. I think Gabriel Jesus had to sort of filter out wide to get a little bit more joy, which he did a little bit to a certain extent. But again, I think all the defense did a remarkable job in shackling all those players. And again, I just have to highlight the only way that they got through was through brilliant play rather than anything else.
Yeah, I know that was the next thing I was going to come on to was our fullbacks. I thought, again, they were fantastic. And I was very happy for Kenny Tete, especially because I think after last week against Brentford, we saw the quality that Mbabu brought with his delivery in those sort of last 15 minutes. And people were starting to doubt whether Kenny Tete might be our best fullback. But I think he showed yesterday, I think we'll touch on it shortly, how good he is defensively. And I think that's especially what he holds over Kevin Mbabu is just how fantastic he was at dealing with those one-on-one situations. Yes, he did have help from his winger, but I thought they really limited the supply that went into the box. I think Arsenal had very few clear-cut chances. And I think one of the reasons why their XG was especially so high after yesterday was that the second goal was basically on the goal line, which I think massively did inflate the XG. But other than that, there weren't really that many chances. So I think James here is sort of summing that up. Great performance, terrific atmosphere. It was good fun in the away end at the Emirates. I thought we were very, very good. Tactics spot on from Marco, but did we get defensive too quickly? And this has been a big discussion over the past sort of 12 hours is, should we have gone to 5 at the back with what was at least 15 minutes remaining? What do you think, Faz?
I think that probably, we do have to be realistic to a certain extent. I think considering the players that we have at our disposal, then, I don't think we were that defensive. It's just going forward, I think we're starting to look a bit thin. That's not to any disrespect on the players that we have, but, we, considering the substitutions that we had to make, I didn't think Cabano was that effective going forward. And, I think there are question marks whether he's got the quality to perform at this level, but that, I still want him obviously to perform well. But I think considering the substitutions we had to make, bringing on Kenny in response to replace Cabano and then having to move Pereira out wide, I think that nullified Pereira's game a little bit. But I think that's down to, the fact that we do have to play a bit more defensively, and therefore we were trying to break a little bit more. And what was quite weird about it is that we didn't score our goal on the break. We actually scored our goal pressing up high. We still tried to press up high. And again, that's down to Arsenal being able to break our lines quite quickly and effectively. But perhaps fans have a bit of PTSD, Parker TSD, if you want to say it, from the fact that his defensive football has such a triggering effect on the fan base that if we play defensive, that's a Parker hangover. But we are this was Arsenal playing really, really well, top of the league, top of the Premier League, of the entire football pyramid at the moment, up against us. They are going to pressure us really hard and try and pen us in as much as possible, and they did that. And I don't think that's down to us playing defensively. I think it was down to them playing really well.
Yeah, I think on the going to the 5 at the back thing, I think one of the things that's caused it as well is that bringing on Eddie Nketiah, what Arsenal did, it gave them a little bit more of a central threat at times as well. You had both Gabby Jesus and Eddie Nketiah who were trying to get into the box, in behind us. And I think it was in part a reaction to that as well, is we needed another body in the middle of defence just to try and shore us up a bit. Where previously the threat was out wide, I think that we started to see a lot more starting to come through in the middle of our defence. And so I can understand why Marco went 5 at the back. And ultimately, really that goal, and I know that there was still time left in the game when the goal came, but that was the only chance they had once we went to 5 at the back. I can't really think of another clear-cut chance they had. So other than maybe when Tosin made a great tackle on Eddie Nketiah just before we conceded. So I think there are merits to it, and I thought we did well when we shifted to 5 at the back, but I can understand why people are looking back at that and thinking that that was maybe the moment that we lost the game. You touched as well on Alexander Mitrovic just before we head on. We're scoring a goal by pressing high up the pitch. Now, there are certain
people... He can't do it.
There are certain people who might say that he's not up for pressing high in Premier League football. So it was nice on a day when maybe Bournemouth didn't have the best of days and a former man at the helm didn't have the best of days, that there was someone from that team showing him that maybe he was wrong all along. So very, very happy for Mitro. And I thought he was good again yesterday. I think he's really leading our line fantastically in terms of his hold-up play, bringing others into play.
Yeah, he's come on leaps and bounds in a lot. Like, if we forget about what happened a couple of years ago, him being out the team and obviously we're missing, I do think he's a much better player than he was a couple of years ago. And a lot of credit does need to go to Mitrovic and Marco Silva. Like, they've obviously worked on that. Marco Silva must have been like, no, you're my main man. We're going to work on it. We're going to work on how you're going to fit into this team. And he's just been doing marvelously. And, it is so satisfying to see him doing it in the Premier League so effectively. And yeah, his hold-up play has come on. Like, he's obviously got all the attributes and has been doing that role for some time now. But yeah, you're right. He's doing much better at it. I think he's you see it, like, even on the long balls, he positions himself just off the defender and then attacks it at the last minute. That you didn't see necessarily a couple of years ago. He really unsettles defender. I thought he did struggle a little bit up against Gabriel. But he wasn't making it easy for them by any stretch. but then obviously got his reward in the end at the end of it with a lovely goal. I think I do have like those memories of that Huddersfield goal from last season. There was that point in the second half. I totally missed it, and you had to tell me what happened when Ramsdale absolutely thumped the ball at him. I did have sort of like memories back to that Huddersfield goal. Could you imagine if that happened in the Premier League? Like Twitter, all the social media would have been going an absolute rage and a storm for that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think Mitro's head is too full of concrete actually for that to have had any way of going in. The power that Ramsdale kicked that one. But I think we've got a couple of comments here that touch on sort of the same topic, and of course, it's always going to be a discussion at the moment. You know, we've got Berksish with is the squad depth the problem here? Could the game have been different? And Gary Cooper also saying that we just need some players. And whilst those are completely valid points, and I think Marco Silva understands it, and he's been very, very vocal on how much we need to fill out this squad. One thing that I remember saying to you yesterday, stood next to you at the game, was that I felt like we were missing Harry Wilson yesterday. I think yesterday could have been a game where Harry Wilson could have a really big impact on the counter, especially. There were a couple of times more than a couple of times, I'd say, when it opened up on the counter for us. We had Bobby flooding down the right, Neeskens on the left, but they just don't quite have that turn of pace that Harry Wilson does. And also maybe don't quite have that quality of the final ball either. So I think whilst, yes, squad depth is an issue, it is also worth bearing in mind that we are missing two, when you include Manor Solomon as well, potentially two first-choice wingers from this team. And then you're looking at maybe an impact sub being Neeskens Cabana or Bobby Reid coming off the bench. That maybe looks a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's no disrespect to those two players you just mentioned in Cabana and Bobby Reid. I thought Bobby Reid was exceptional yesterday. I don't know what it is about him. Like, does he just perform better in the Premier League? He's just. It's like it reminds me of when I used to play FIFA or Pro Evo with my brothers. That I would always play better with 10 men. Like when times are tough, I would always play better. So I think maybe. Yeah, if we go back down to the Championship, just don't play Bobby Reid or something. But anyway, and we are missing Harry Wilson, and you are totally right. I thought, if you think back to the FA Cup game against Man City last year, Harry Wilson was great in the first half there, and there would have been a perfect game for him as well. I think he set up Carvalho's goal as well in that game. But Bobby Reid was working so hard down that right-hand side. Like, a lot of his defensive work was crucial to the performance yesterday. But it's so difficult to then sort of win the ball, find the pass, and then try and get up the pitch as quickly as possible. And then obviously we lose it and then we come back again. But again, back to the original point, it does highlight how paper thin we are up the top of the pitch as well. And that limits the options that Marco Silva has to try and turn the tide in our favour. On the bench we had Luke Harris, Jay Stansfield, Tyrese Francois. If you looked at his performance against Crawley, you could kind of see that it's not really, it's an option if you're really forced into it. And Tom Kearney, who, is a great player. And I thought he was good again when he came on. He just got his foot on the ball, was able to find half a yard of breathing space for the team. But at his age and his influence in the team, he's not really going to start counter-attacking on it and trying to do that side of things. He's not going to unlock a defense in, at the byline at the moment. So it's a real struggle for Marco Silva, and that's probably explains the reason why I want to bring in players. I want to sort of embed players in the match team, and Issa Diop is one player he certainly sees as an option going forward. So he really needs game time. But yeah, hopefully, and it's weird that it's come around quite quickly. Only a few days left of the transfer window. Again, it's come around quickly, and we're in a state once again for maybe the 6th or 7th season in a row that we're really lacking. Like, it's not just like we would like 1 or 2 players. We really need 1 or 2 players. In fact, we probably need 3 or 4, as Marco is saying. Yeah. And again, we're in this situation. And do we learn? But I'm not complaining too much. I think we have bought in sensibly. João Palhinha is fantastic. I'm starting to see the real benefit of Andreas Pereira. I think he really slots in quite well. But what if one of those players gets injured? You're looking very, very bad after that, aren't you? It's a long season, and we definitely need those players in.
Yeah, I think Marco Silva got asked again about how many players do you think you need 3 or 4 players in through the door, and he was very strong in the fact that he said 4 for definite is what we need in through the door, which is hard to disagree with. I think finally, just to sort of wrap up the Arsenal game on the substitutions front, especially, Marco brought it up, and it's a very, very valid point, and it's important that we don't forget it, that the batch of changes that he made, when you look at when we were at 1-1 and then also 2-1 down, we had great chances in both of those moments. To maybe go 2-1 up with a towering header from Mitro, which was palmed away and then nearly turned back in by Bobby. And then Nat Chalobah at 2-1 had a chance to grab us a really late point. And it was a difficult chance, and he did well on sort of the half volley. But I think it's also worth not getting too wrapped up in that was the reason why we lost, because we still had moments in that game beyond that. So, yeah, to wrap up that game and before we have a little couple of minute chat on what we've got coming up on Tuesday, I think proud, great performance. It's a shame we've not come away with anything, but it's the Premier League. We are going to lose some games, and if you'd have said we wouldn't lose our first game until the 4th game of the season, I think we'd have all been pretty happy with that. So, with that in mind, looking ahead to Tuesday, Brighton are second in the league. They're a very, very good side. They beat Leeds 1-0 yesterday. They are defensively fantastic. Potentially, I think one of the tropes is that they're quite profligate in front of goal, and maybe that becomes even more so now that Neil Maupay has headed off to Everton. How do you see Tuesday going? Do you think we've burnt ourselves out with that effort on Saturday? Do you think we've got enough time to regroup? Do we need to rotate?
I wouldn't. If we had a bigger squad, then yeah, I'd be more than happy to rotate. But we just don't have the options. I'm looking at the bench that we fielded yesterday, and the only player that I see sort of knocking on the door of the first team is Tom Kearney. He's got the quality, he's got the match fitness, the sharpness. Maybe not on corners to get into the team, but apart from that, I'm like, yeah, I like Jay Stansfield, yeah, I like Kevin Mbabu, but I can't see Marco rotating. I think it would be unwise to do so, especially since the performances has been really good in the league so far. But yeah, again, we're going to come up against a tough test in Brighton, and obviously. Danny Welbeck, who's being absolutely brilliant for them as usual. I hope it goes kind of the same way that it did last time we in the Premier League when there were fans. That brilliant game on the Tuesday night, probably the highlight of the Ranieri era, but where it looked like the players decided to throw off the shackles and not listen to Ranieri at all, and actually play some football and do what they're good at. But yeah,
that's when Callum Chambers made an early running for Player of the Year for the Ballon d'Or award. I think I seem to remember. It was a
great goal. I actually I did a Don Betts and actually missed that goal. I was in the concourse, but yeah, I don't. It's weird because we've come away from a loss. Our squad is looking thin. We might start to pick up injuries and fatigue. But I'm still hopeful. I'm still confident that this team will perform well. I still have confidence that they'll be able to produce a decent performance out of it. We have a striker who is on form and scored 4 goals already in the Premier League. Yeah, I'm confident we can create chances and score goals against this team.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. It's going to be a tough one, but that's what we're here for. We're here for these tough challenges. And if we can get 3 points at home on Tuesday, things are looking very, very good for the start of the season. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for your comments. There will be a podcast that's being recorded later today, so should be with you this evening or tomorrow morning. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your weekend and come on, you Whites.
You Whites.